Hey everyone, this is Josh, and we're going to be talking about the first pass on the eyeball. So I'm going to be this is going to be an active workshop. So you are welcome to use these blocks. They are very much early, so they will break, and but I do want to get feedback, so I wanted to get stuff out to you start playing with. So I'm currently working off Drake here. So I have some that are shaped already, but I'm just gonna do a new one so you guys can see the process. So what I would do is I'm gonna make my master, but you make your head the active block. And again, I'm gonna assume that you all have been through the material, that you understand the basics of how this works, because I'm not gonna go over every little small step. So I'm gonna do we'll start with an eye symbol just so you can see it, before we get to the lid stuff, how it works. Focus on that. So here's a block. So this is an eye, right? So at the defined state, we have a couple of things to without the lid to look at. You can actually scale the iris and the pupil. I do have it set up currently so you can build without a pupil if you don't want it. So if you go to pupil build to none, and if I redefine this, you'll see the pupil doesn't show up, just have the iris. Currently I have it so you have to have the iris, because otherwise it's just a ball and it's really nothing to see, but I can change that later. But for now, this is what we got. So I'm going to go back to add that pupil build. No, just want to shape for now. Redefine. Okay, so the idea is that you can just scale these to match, and it'll make more sense when I do the one on mDrake above here in a minute. But I just wanted to show you this real quick. So you just move the iris where you want, and I'm using it follows the surface, so it will flip if you go too high. The orientation will get messed up. But I tried initially. I had a rotate version of this. But it was getting off to where the center point wasn't through the center of the pupil anymore. Anyway, this is better for now, but I do go to a rotation control when I go to pre-rig. Let's see, is there anything else for... Oh, so actually I'll just show that when we get to Drake. So let me just show this real quick. I'm going to go to form, and on the eyeball, when there's no lid, it doesn't really do anything. It's just an eyeball. I go to pre, you're gonna see something different here. So now you'll see that we have the this handle. So this is the vector handle, and it should be out here. I'll need to look at why that's not out here. This is your settings. You do want to pay attention where this is at, because this is currently what becomes our eye root anim. It just uses the shape and then moves the pivot here. You can move the pivot. I do have the ability to, I have the initial start to be able to change the, go back to form so I can change the base size, to have non-uniform eyes. Don't build like this yet. It's not set up. So what I'm going to do is, when I have this set up, I'm going to create a joint that then tracks this the surface the same way. So the iris will actually be geo for the game engine stuff. I haven't really figured out exactly how I'm going to do it with the non-game engine. I can use what can I think? A lattice to reshape the eye for non-game work, but right now we're focused on the game work. So anyway, the idea is here. It's going to track that surface. You can see kind of how that's going to work. I just don't have enough money yet. So for this first patch of testing, just keep your eyes uniform on the scale. Otherwise, they're going to rotate weird, because they're going to just be rotating and not retaining their shape as they rotate. So I'll go to pre-rig again. This aims, so it aims this handle. So it's to aid that, and again, this should be out here, this shape. So I need to see why it's doing that. In fact, I'm going to fix that real quick. One sec. Okay, got that fixed. So that aims there. So let's go ahead and I need to put this joint as a joint, I need to take this to rig. So I get my master to rig, and I don't care about all that stuff. Got my tiny eyeball here. Okay, and then I'm going to take this to joint, and you should see your joint come in, and it's going to orient here. And then I'm going to go ahead and rig that. Hey, I'm going to pause when I'm rigging stuff just so you all don't have to wait for the speed stuff. Then if I go to block, verify the proxy, you see I get my nice geo here. And let me hide this, hide those. And you'll see I get my aim. And then I changed the FK to, because I used to have the kind of the orb around the eye, but I found that, well, I was thinking ahead to where when we have non-spherical eyes, it's not going to work well, and so I just changed it to use that orient helper, which is kind of nice because you can see where it's the eye's aiming, the other eye figure coming out. So it does build your iris geo and your pupil based on your sizing stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the mRake setup real quick. Okay, so refresh that. I'm going to add another eye block. So I'm going to add a clam lid this time. This is our initial lid setup that we have. And like I said, I'll do the full lid setup when I do MorphiKid. But for mRake, we just wanted the single lid joint. So that's what we call our clam lid. I'll select that. And I'm going to go ahead and snap raycast. I want it here. Okay. So let's see. So there's your eyeball. So, I'm going to be doing this a lot. So I use raycasting a lot to move things around my scene. I have the marking menu, just hotkeys, CG marking menu. And then I use the S. And I've talked about this in some of the videos, but if I just hit S quickly, it's like my set key. See, I just if I do it quickly, just have the set key, and it has some other things, but it is the marking menu, and so I use this for a lot of stuff, and I'm going to use this a lot in the lid, as you'll see in a minute. So what we want to do, is how I've designed this, is that we'd be setting this on the you could also just snap to this vertice. You'd want to kind of have this at the front of the eye. What's going on here? Oh, there it is. It's just kind of tiny. So the first thing we're going to do is increase the size. So I'm going to change the size of this thing up to figure it out. So when you change the base size, it's going to change the size of this orb. What we want to do is to match the orb of the eye. So ideally, you're going to be probably looking through the lid to do that, and go into wireframe unless you see that. So I want to get my eye formed really spot onto that, because we want that, especially with a spherical eye, we want the pivot point to be dead center, and so this lets us visualize that. So once I would have that, I would just redefine it. And what that's going to do is going to push out our lid stuff. So it makes a little bit more sense. So let's talk about this. So the way that I have the placement set up is you have your upper, so you have your lid movers, and we already talked about the iris. So like in this, I would just scale this up to move, and then move it back a little bit to match. And then the same thing with the pupil. I just move it back a little bit and then scale this to match my asset. And then if it's off center a little bit, I would just move this to just match the eye exactly to my texture. So I'm going to do a raycasting again. So what I can do also is I can assign this to be my, with raycasting, to be the surface I'm casting to. So I'm gonna, in my settings on toolbox, I'm gonna make my raycast, I'm gonna define my buffer. So what that is gonna do is it's gonna say that typically raycasting on our setup casts to everything, and I only want to cast to this surface. And then I can turn this off, this reference, so I can't select this anymore. So we have a couple of things. So our outer orb, we kind of want to wrap around. So I'm going to just kind of do snap raycast, and then I can just say I want this here. And then once I have that selected, I'll hit G again. It's going to recall that same command. And so it just makes it really fast to position things. So again, I'm just hitting G because that was my last command to snap those around. So this is something I added yesterday. I was needing a way to define, and then I tried a couple different ways to define the lid depth, which I need for the next step. So what I came up with, and it's not amazing, but it works, is so I have an iris, not iris depth. That is the thing, you can change the depth of that, or you can just move it. But the lid depth. So if I'm over this, you'll see that as so another thing we added was this Maya 2017, I think they added it. This proximity hiding, which makes it a lot easier to see things and to keep things clear. But eventually I'll have it so you can toggle it on and off. I just don't have that currently. So I'm just going to change this depth. That's way too deep. But you'll see it's changing the depth of all of these. I tried doing it on all of them. It just was weird, so I turned it back off and just have it on those. So then the next thing we're going to do is take this to form. This is all we would do at the define state. So the form state. So it's doing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff happening behind the scenes here. We just haven't so one, you'll see that it's penetrating here. This is because we only have 3 handles, and so it's finding for this line. It's finding the place on the surface. But if we up this count, so if I change my so you can change your shapers. So if I change this to let's say 8 to be crazy, and then this to 8. So you'll see we have 3 lines of controllers. So 1, 2, 3. So now what I've said is I want 8 of these. And so it's going to redo it, and it's going to give me, it's going to resplit all this data, and each of those lines is going to be laid across the orb of the eye. So it gives you a lot better shape. Now another thing to note is that, so this is what I'm calling my contact line. So this interior line is contact. This is lid line. This is edge, or this is edge, and this is orb is how I'm calling them. And so what I would do, and I'm going to open up my previous done file here in a second. Oh, and also, see this is sided to the, it's yellow because it's center. I would just say set side to right. And it's going to, if I save this, is mine the right one here? Yeah. So I have a name conflict. I'm going to rename this as, set name as dupe or demo. No, I don't have a conflict. I'm going to save this. I'm going to rebuild it so I can get my colors right. So I'm just going to go back to define, redefine, load that, form. So what I'm going to do when this is done building, great, is get my nice red eyes, to do some raycasting again. So I'm going to hook up my snap, raycast, and then I can just kind of go through here and say I want that there and that. Oh, not there, not there. open that there. So it just makes it real quick to go through here. I'm not going to do all of this because I already have one that's already done. Yeah, so I'm going to pause and open that real quick. Okay, so I have some shaped lids that I did here, and I've mirrored it as well. Mirroring does work, so if I take this and I'm like, with this here, for whatever reason, then I'm like, I just would select this, and just like the other mirror stuff, mirror push, and it'll push that change to the other side. I don't want that, so I'm going to go back. There we go. So we're at the form state, so I'm going to go ahead and go to pre-rig. Great. So you'll see that the settings is placed where I want it. I can place this somewhere else. And actually, one thing I do want feedback on is I have these little balls. I tried a couple different shapes, and it just seemed to be the one that worked the best. I do want to see, like, Dave and I really like the proximity stuff, but would like to get feedback. Some of y'all just really don't like it. I'd like to know, because it's something we're going to be playing with, implementing to the rest of the blocks in the coming months. So if some of you really don't like it, we definitely need to have a way to toggle that on and off, and especially then as we move to adding that to the rigs themselves. I have had some, this is a point of discussion, talking to some of my TD buddies. The controllers seem to have some potential issues with how they evaluates, and so we may, well, our plan of how to do it would be as a post process, so we'd be able to strip it on and off the proximity stuff with the rigs, but it is something we want to play with. So if that interested any of y'all want to start playing with it and R&Ding that, happy to talk to you. On these, I didn't have a chance to do it this pass, but I want to implement, you can do pick walking with it as well, so I want to be able to walk through these controllers and make it a lot easier to select them. Select up the line or across. I just haven't had a chance to look into how to do that yet. So you'll see that the new eyes that we can make proximity wise are much better than the first pass last fall. Let's see if I have that up somewhere I can show you. Yeah. So this was the proximity face I made last fall for mDrake. So you'll see that we've improved it a little bit. So this is the eyes, and I'm going to be on brow next. But anyway, so I got that eye set up. So I'm going to go ahead and push this to. I do want to talk about this. So on this first pass, we're just going to place this because I already had, and I did this because I was trying to get this done, and I have my locators from my previous build of this, and I was trying to match it exactly. So I just have a place to snap this to, and then my other one. So this is what the joint handle looks like. What I'm going to do is have probably a curve that goes through here, and that will be split. But for now, this is what I got. This is the control handle. So this is what will be the lid controller. So you can see all these were circles before. I changed them to half circles so that when you close the eye, the circles won't overlap each other near as much. That's the idea there, at least. Oh, this is something that's kind of cool with this setup. Now I was thinking about trying to implement it to the we template things, but I haven't done that yet. You can almost preview kind of how your lids are going to close, just if you select the form handles, and then you can kind of just manually close the lid and see how it's going to feel. And that way you can see if your geo is going to, this is more if you're prototyping something, if it's going to go through the eyeball without having a separate, fan layer of joints. It's just something kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's kind of handy. So I'm going to do that. So let's see. I talked about the aim. And you do have this, you can aim that, and it'll move the pupil. I'm going to go ahead and rig the, I need to go to joint. So you'll see that my lid joints are created. Oh, I didn't show that on the pre-rig. So it does show you a visualization of going back to the root. Here's the root joint in here, and I do have curved lines going back to the between them. I'm trying to make it miss as visually informational or rich as possible, so that you see kind of what things are going to be before you hit the build button and potentially waste build time, because the build times are they're slower than I'd like, and that's something that we'd like to address. But as much as possible, we want to keep it so that you can see where those places are. So you'll see where our eye joint is oriented to that root, and that these are oriented back, with that being our up. So I'm going to go ahead and rig the root. So what you would do is you would, if you had a head, you would make sure that would be your parent, and then it would connect the facial blocks to that. And that should work. There's nothing I did that should break that, and I say that, and someone's going to try it, it's going to break. But I'm going to be doing it myself here in a few days. So after this eye block, I'm calling this good for now. I'm going to move into the brow block. But the eye block was the oldest, so it needed the most time and attention, just because it was the first block I did last fall, and so a lot of stuff that I learned through that process I wanted to come back and add, and so I've been able to add a lot of that, so it's a lot better. I'm going to go ahead and build. I accidentally hit stop on my recording, so I had to start recording again. So I built the eye. So I'm going to build my proxy, but there's what I want to talk through something after that. So you see I just have my eye for now. I don't have the lid. The reason for that is it'd be cool to have it with a clam lid, but there's a lot of stuff I'd have to do to make it work, because there's not enough joints to show it. So rather than bog down the rig for a cool factor, you can just see it, make sure it's working another way, and I'll show you how to do that. So as you remember on our rig, so what I'm saying is, on a full lid, I'm going to do the proxy because I can skin stuff. But with a single joint, there's not enough data there to make it worthwhile to show. But you can see it when I turn on that. As you recall, if you turn on the rig guts, you can lock and just see them. So you'll see my curves. So here's my curves. And then there's only one bind joint. So that's why it's just moving the arc itself. But if I do my blink, you'll see the curve pulls the joints down, so you can see it's working. And then you can change your blink height. So while it's working, the framework is there. I just don't have. Let me turn on the FK so you can see the follow. Okay. So you'll see the lid is following. And then you can turn that on and off as well. The lid follow, you can turn that off, and then you just gotta just that. So I'm gonna be building Drake. So you all can start playing with this. I'm going to move forward to the brow and the lower face, and then I'll do vids on those. And then once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and build Drake and update that asset. So those of you that have access to it will be able to start playing with it. And then I'm going to loop back, and I want to talk to you all and see what kind of changes we want to make as I do the next pass with Morphe Kid in a few weeks. Just heads up, I'm going to be out of town early June for a few days, so I'll be away on vacation for a bit, but hopefully we'll get this asset. I want to get Morphe Kid out hopefully in the next month, June. I'm terrible at estimating time, so we'll see how that goes. Morphe Kid's not just going to be face updates. I'm also going to be adding the squash and stretch stuff to Miss. So it's going to be a lot more complicated setup stuff. But I'll do the face first. So we'll do a version of it without the squash stretch. I'll do the face first because I know some of y'all are waiting on that. And then I'll loop back and do the full squash and stretch. So that's the plan. Looking forward to see what you guys do. And I'll be on brow next. Thanks.